Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with fabulous concert programs number 115. Concerts that you will never hear in real life, but that you can play in the comfort and convenience of your own home. This one, I think, is really kind of unfortunate that we'll never hear in real life because it really would work beautifully in real life. Actually, most of these would. Some of them, originally when I started doing this series, the concept was to do things that would plausibly bring in an audience and allow people to do things. But then we kind of said, screw it. I mean, if no one's ever going to get to see it, we might as well do things that are designed more for home listening. But the whole point is that the programs have to work. They have to work as a group, as a group of pieces, and sound lovely when you play them at home, whether or not you could actually see them at a concert or not. But this is one that hews to the original concept that would work really, really well in a concert hall. I think, anyway. It would be a beautiful concert. I would go in a minute. The feature work is Glazunov Symphony No. 7. This is number 8 in our Glazunov Symphony Cycle, because somewhere in the middle, we also included the ballet The Seasons. And this is actually another seasonal kind of program. Glazunov's music works very well that way, not just because it's colorful and balletic, and he wrote a ballet on The Seasons, and his music kind of has that. People don't usually think of, let's put it this way, people don't usually think of Russian composers as having been sort of nature influenced. And nobody really cares enough about Glazunov to look at his philosophy, his philosophy of music, his philosophy of life, whatever it was. He didn't leave lots of writings. He doesn't have biographical things written about him. He wasn't exciting in any particular way. And so nobody probes his music, but his music is in fact extremely influenced by the sounds of nature and by the pastoral topos, if you want to call it, the pastoral topic that we find so characteristic in so much Western music. And nothing is more pastoral sounding than the seventh. I mean, it sounds almost like a kind of Russian Dvorak. It is so completely mellifluous, first of all, and based on the sonority of the woodwind section, and light and airy with beautiful melodies. And, it just feels like a spring morning. It's a symphony. It really, really does. And so I wanted to build a program that had lots of contrast, but still operated on this pastoral theme. So we begin with Frank Bridge, his tone poem, Enter Spring, which is absolutely one of the great 20th century tone poems, and nobody knows it. I mean, it's glorious, and it starts out kind of chromatic and modernist sounding, but then there's a big tam-tam crash, and the fog clears, and spring comes marching into a wonderful tune. Da, 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 da. Oh, it's just marvelous with bells and things, and just sensational. And it's pretty hefty. It's like 20 minutes long. So it's a big, weighty concert opener in a 20th century style. And so I wanted to contrast that version of pastoral writing, which is really quite heavy duty for pastoral music. I mean, it is. It's recognizably pastoral. It's spring-like, but it's joyful, and it's big, with something that's considerably lighter, but still fits what these programs normally should have, which is a concerto on the first half. And the concerto, I think, is a really interesting one. It's Rodrigo's Concierto Pastoral for flute and orchestra. An absolutely lovely, lovely work that, it's been recorded a bunch of times. It was written for James Galway, but I've never seen it played. It must get played. I'm sure it does. But you don't see lots of flute concertos these days anyway, do you? Usually it's a piano concerto, a violin concerto, or something heftier. So after Enter Spring, which is hefty enough as itself, this light, charming, beautifully written concerto for flute is just the ticket. I mean, it really is just a charming and lovely work, a beautiful piece to close the first half. Then we go away for intermission. You go to the bathroom or you go, have dinner or do something and come back, and we have the second half. The second half begins with another pastoral. This is Honegger's first major orchestral work, the Pastorale d'été, the summer pastoral. A lovely, short 8 or 9 minute tone poem of great charm for limited forces. We're reversing what we did in the first half, because the first half began with a sort of big, ballsy piece and ended with something light and charming and vivacious. Well, this begins with something light and charming and not so vivacious. It's mellow, quite lovely, and it ends with something hefty. On the pastoral side, the Glazunov Seventh Symphony, which really is almost, although the bridge came much later, and so did the Rodrigo, but it is kind of a synthesis of all of these pastoral trends that we've seen in the first three works, because it has, it's a full-length symphony, so it has big outer movements that are meaty and full of melodic and developmental content, and then two lighter inner movements. And so you've got, the opportunity to sort of take a glance at all of the different ways of being pastoral that we've talked about and sum them all up. And one of the points of these programs also is presenting the Glazunov symphonies, which are relatively unknown, in the best possible light, in programs which show them to be the masterpieces of orchestral writing, which I believe many of them are. And the seventh particularly, I think it's one of his strongest symphonies. It's extraordinarily beautiful and lovely at first listen, and it makes a fantastic, joyful conclusion to a concert that I think will leave everybody feeling refreshed and stimulated and full of vim and vigor of the great outdoors. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you try this program. It's really lovely. Take care.